Okay, we are in Tzidkas Hatzadik Os Memtes, and Rav Tzadok HaKohen is continuing his theme that he's been, we've been talking about for weeks and weeks, and that is how what seems like bad is not necessarily bad, and he will continue what seems like good is not necessarily good. I have to say that I just might myself imagine, Rav Tzadok was a young youngish Ilui, and he came to learn by the Yishvitzer. Tzidkas Hatzadik apparently is the notes that he took when he first came to the Yishvitzer Rebbe, the Meah Shiloach, and that he would to suddenly hear that everything that he thought was bad is okay. Not just okay, but it's good. Let's write this down. This is a whole life-changing attitude for life, and I think as much as I think that we get it already, because we said that Reish Lakish taught, and we spent time on Kol HaGadol Mechaveira Yitzrei Gadol Mimanu, that a big Yetzer Hara comes with the territory of being a big person, because that's a certain koach. He manages to take it further here in Memtes. And there's really two parts to this, and I hope we get to both parts. So this is as follows. Kol echad yeda, everybody knows, or should know, shebema sheyitzrei toikvai b'yoser, hu kli muchan lo'isam dvarim b'yoser liyos nikim v'zakim etzlai. So let's... something we've heard, but let's hear it even better. That you thought, we all thought, that you have, let's say, a kid in school, or a teenager, or an adult, or whatever it might be, and you want to find out your aptitude. You want to find out what are you good at, or more deeply, what really should I be spending my life doing? What should be my emphasis? And we find, by the way, a number of places in Chazal that everybody has to do all the mitzvahs, but different Amoraim and Tanoim kind of specialized in certain mitzvahs, and that was their mitzvah, even their masechta. You have to do everything, but there's a certain specialty, and that specialty had to do with their shirish neshama, with who they were. So, back to the kid in school, we want to find out, let's say the kid asked the Rebbe, who might be the last one to answer this question, but the kid asked the Rebbe, what should I focus on in life? What should I do in life? So what will the Rebbe say? Naturally, well, let's see what you're good at. If we'll see what you're good at, you're particularly handy, or you're particularly, you're a good speaker, or you're a good thinker, you're a philosopher, you have a great imagination, whatever, you're artistic, whatever the counselor tells him, shows him his strength. That we would say that would be a school that we would already be comfortable sending to, instead of just just what should I do with my life? Shut up and read. We're at least focusing on the character, on the strength of that kid. Comes Rav Tzadok and he says, I got it all wrong. Not the way to do it. The way to do it is kol echad yeda. Everyone should know, if you want to really figure out somebody's strength, the way to figure it out is to find out, to interview the child. Doesn't have to be a child, I'm just saying, you interview the child and find out what are you really bad at. That's your thing. What do you really have like a serious Yetzer Hara for? We just found your tachlis. Not your tachlis is to get rid of that Yetzer Hara. Not your tachlis is to, now you know what you have to be careful about. No, that's what we're saying. We're identifying the student by, we're using this as identity. It sounds like all completely wrong if you ask me, but it's completely right now that I know this. That if you can figure out what a person's real Yetzer Hara is, you can really know what that person's purpose is in life, because that Yetzer Hara is going to be the generator for anything tov that this person's going to do. And if you have like a super big Yetzer Hara for a particular thing, you really have a taiva for a certain thing. We know your life goal, and it's not to get rid of that taiva. We just understand something. Let's just do an exercise. Not really. I don't want to make anyone feel awkward, but just for a moment, like forget about kids now in school. Like let's do like for a moment to ourselves, like a new kind of cheshbon nefesh. Like what ra do I really excel in? What do I really have a Yetzer Hara for? Is it money, kavod, sensuous relationships, lashon hara? You're not supposed to go check. I think like, some people it's a bigger nisayon than others, right? So I just want to do this experiment for a moment, and not with somebody else, just like with ourselves. If I stop to think cheshbon nefesh, let's say usually, oh my gosh, I talk too much lashon hara, and now I'm going to make a tainas dibur. That's the regular way of learning. So that's called in the Musar Svarim, which is good. That's called shviras hamidos. I have a problem with talking, so be quiet. We're doing a different exercise now. We're saying I have a problem with lashon hara. How do I work that to my advantage? I don't know. Is there somebody will give me a hand here? Huh?
I'm a journalist.
A journalist. Okay.
Doesn't that make it worse?
That's what I'm trying to say. You're feeding the eggs, right?
You're using, but before we're using it, in other words, we're identifying the strength of a person by what is perceived to be negative in that person. Why? Because it's only negative because this person, or we, as the case might be, are using it in a negative sort of a way. By talking, you see, I think, like as an example, I think like when I talk lashon hara, it happens. So so part of that is a deep first stop in general rechilus and being a yenta. It's a deep curiosity and interest in other people and their lives. Truth is, lashon hara is not like one of my big nisyonos. But now I feel guilty about it. But when you hear as horrible it is, that somebody's always talking about other people, real lashon hara. But there's a sort of an interest in other people's lives that you don't necessarily find by somebody who's like hermeneutically, is that the word? Sealed from the rest of the world. Like he cares about other people. Now, talking lashon hara is a bad thing. I mean, Chaim wrote a book which shook up the whole world. Like talking lashon hara is a bad thing. Nobody can make it into a good thing. Even l'toelis, you got to be podik it 100 times. Lashon hara is a bad thing, but we're not talking about talking lashon hara. We're talking about what is it within me that wants me to talk or say something negative, or is it some kind of an insecurity in myself that I need to knock other people, which might translate as some type of a humility, which could be turned into something good, etc., etc. Truth is, I've not exercised in this well enough, but just imagine a system. Imagine a system where, like the tests that you get in school are to bring out your bad. Like we really want to know what's bad about you, because that way we can know what you can excel in, but it takes a tremendous amount of chachma to be able to do that. But that's what he's saying here, which is a big chiddush.
It's like the Gemara that says you run under the red storm and you should become shofar.
So I guess that's the pshat in that Gemara, but except that the more when the more simple pshat in that Gemara is, look, you're stuck with being born in Mazel Madim. So, and you're not going to be able to get out of it legamri, so become a sheikh or a moil. Whereas I quoted my own Rebbe, or become a Rebbe. Do something that has some achzarius in it, but nobody, I don't think it's regular to learn that Gemara to say, that, oh, I have the midah of achzarius. Now, what do I do with that midah of achzarius? Well, I mean, let's look at last week's haftarah. Shaul should have had a little bit more achzarius in him. It was a chasarn. He was lacking in all the Mefarshim say. It was just lacking in his personality to go ahead and just, kill so easily. It wasn't something that it was easy for him to do. But Shmuel admonished him for it. So it's a very interesting, definition of good and bad. But let's go for a little further in the words. Ubedvarim shehir ba lifshaya bahem. It's exactly in the areas where you tend to sin a lot. Yeda, that's how you know. Shuklui muchan liyos daika ba'oisa davar naki uvar leyv. That if you find yourself, like you go right before you go to sleep, it's a good idea. Like the Mezil Sisharim says, before you go to sleep at night, just run through your day like a movie. And just, look at the seret and say, figure out, like I did this, I did that. Why did I do this? Why did I do that? But now, instead of going to sleep like, eingesetzt and completely depressed because you failed at this, and you failed at that, and you slept too late, and you ate too much, and all that, just try to figure out, like Rav Tzadok says in a different place, like if you want to get tzedakah from somebody, go to somebody who loves to eat. He's your man. Right? Like the fundraising spot, the hot spot in Beit Shemesh should be like New Delhi. Like people, so it's a new way, a sophisticated way of analyzing a davar shelif shaya boy. So here, yes, I did a pesha, and yes, I have to do tshuva, and yes, I have to have charata on it, and kabbalah alos, and all those things. Talking about pshia, I did it, but at the same time, it's insightful to know what I can be, ba'osa davar naki ubar leva, where I could really put my heart. Where does my heart lie? V'lachein. And therefore it says in Vayikra Rabbah, shebe'ever sheboi chata bo ye'as mitzvahs, that, and again, it's something we're familiar with, but if somebody, or even the Klal, even Klal Yisrael, does a particular Aveira, let's say you use your hands for that Aveira, so now you should dedicate your hands for mitzvah. That's what it says in Chazal. Chazal, he brings the Chazal on the bottom. Let's just, this Chazal is all based in the Psukim in Mishlei Vav. So Mishlei Vav, which I don't have in front of me, but take my word for it, Mishlei Vav is Shlomo HaMelech making a very, very comprehensive list of every lousy thing a person could do. He lends money with ribbis, and he's corrupt in his values, and so Chazal take it apart, and they say, just to read you a little bit of it because it's brought here, Inayim Ramais, right? Al chet shechatanu lefanecha ba'inayim Ramais. What does it mean? Inayim Ramais? Body. Right. So, in other words, if I understand it correctly, is what I think when I say al-chet, is that if you're a person with busha, if somebody's important talking to you or somebody's giving you a mussar, you look down. Einayim Ramos says you're able to look the person straight in the eye when they're saying something is a certain brazenness and that. So, what do you do with that Einayim Ramos? Say Chazal, hayu l'taytafos b'nei necha. You put tefillin on, so something to think about that your tefillin here. By the way, it's very hard to have Einayim Ramos when you're wearing tefillin. So tefillin shel reish, but the tefillin shel reish, and that's why it says b'nei necha, even though it's over here, because we know it's all here. The bain, it's all there in the front cortex, not between your eyes, but it has to do with the Einayim Ramos. So that's what Chazal say. Our kavana should be, I'm going to look with busha, humility. Lashon sheker, Shlomo HaMelech says, if I tend to lie a lot, so what should you do with that? There you go. Right, become a Rebbe. How do you figure that out? You catching the mahalach here? You guys are so honest that you're not even get what? I'll tell you why. Because like what is it? A person generally lies because you're trying to convince somebody of something, or you're trying to get them to like buy into something. And usually a person who's a good liar has an unusual imagination. Sometimes these guys can go into like Hollywood, like an unusual imagination of what actually took place. And all these things, it seems to me, are really good strengths in a classroom. So you don't lie to the kids, chas v'shalom, but wow, I have a good imagination. I could really put things forth in a way that's going to really create a picture over here, which is, I could even do it when it's not true. How much more so can I do when it is true? So it's not that, and this ability to convince people of something. So when we're talking about lashon sheker, look at it deeply and don't just say, oh, wow, this is the last guy you're going to hire as a Rebbe. It should be the last guy we hire as a Rebbe. The reason is because we don't know that he did this Tikkun. But if somebody tells you this is what he did before he became a Baal Tshuva, or this is what he did when he was a kid, or this is what he did. So we don't work this way, but that not only should not bother us if we believe in Tshuva, yes. So if a person did this Tikkun, he'll excel at that very, very thing. Like Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan said this to Reish Lakish, Chelcha Lo'iraisa. You're good at mountain jumping and all kinds of things, like running after people.
And then straight away lost his strength.
Yeah. Have salachos. Shalom HaMelech talks about Yadayim Shoifchais Dam Naki. Like I'm a pretty good person, but I tend to kill people.
Innocent people.
Innocent civilians. Yeah. Yadayim Shoifchais Dam Naki. That's what Dam Naki means, right? Innocent civilians. So, okay, but it's just, okay, other than that, like, you can use me as a babysitter or like, so what do we do with this guy? So take the depth, and like, the way I understand it is, you know how to activate your hands in a negative way. You know how to get from here to here. And you could take an evil thought and translate, everybody has evil thoughts, but you could take that evil thought and actually translate it to Maisa. So this is what the symbolism of Tefillin Shel Yad is. This I had a trouble understanding, but I'll share it with you. You'll understand it. Let's say Shlom HaMelech says, "Yeraglayim mimaharos larutz l'ra." You tend to be, when something bad is going on, you tend to be the first one in line.
Yes.
So, Avirat Acher Mila Shehi Bein HaBerkayim. He Bein HaBerkayim. So, also Mila is Vayashkem Avraham Baboker. There's Rizus. But I think Raglaim Mamaris Loritz Lara. I'm trying to think of an example of this in our life. Yeah, Vayashkem Baboker. Meaning, like Mila is not something, so I understand it, Mila is not something that you naturally would run to do. Okay, I have to do it b'yom hashmini, I'll push it off. I'll do it as close to Shkia as possible. Nature is to procrastinate. But, we're doing something, like I'm doing an operation on my kid, and it's there's blood and everything. So I guess naturally we would push it off. But can you do it in an hour? It's like going to the dentist. But but if a person runs to Ra, that means you're a Zaris. So use it not to be a procrastinator. Like, just get it done. What? He also ran to worship Avodah Zarah with his father when he was a kid, So he was a worshiper. And he was, It says there. It says right there in the Rambam. He got up early in the morning and with his father and looked at the sun, and, worshipped it. Okay, etc. And here's the underlinable yesod here. You would think that what we're just talking about is tikkun la'avera kodemes midah keneged midah. That's what we're all thinking. Okay, I sinned with my hands, I got to do something good with my hands. I sinned with my mind, I got to do something good with my mind. He says, that's just a tikkun of midah keneged midah. That's not what we're talking about here. He says, avol hu gam tikkun nafshoy bifrat. It's not that. It's not that it's subtle. It's not that it's doing a tikkun for my hands or for my, it's a tikkun of my nefesh. And as he explained earlier, if I find myself with a tendency to certain particular averas or taivas or pshiyas, so it's not a tikkun, okay, now do something to turn that around. What it is I've now defined myself, and once I've defined myself, I have a whole different profile of who I am and what I am. And once I have that profile, you know how to become a gadol. It's amazing. Kichol echad, and here's Amenahapachu. Kichol echad nivra l'tikun eza davar prati. We know, right? We know everybody has something in particular that they need to contribute to this world. And they know, we all know that what they have to contribute to this world, nobody else will ever be able to contribute. Not before, not after, not at a different time, right? If I'm not going to do what I have to do at the right time, so there's no point to, that's the reason I was created, no point to life otherwise. However, we know that, we all talk about that, but we say, again, so what is my thing? Or how do I know what my tachlis is? Well, the positive shot, that's where everyone gets stuck in this conversation. And the simple answer is, well, figure out what you have a strength in. You're good at art, do art, And here he's saying, no. Something that makes your nefesh very different than everybody else's. Ve'ein la chaver means that there's nothing that is similar to it in the entire world. And this is what the Gemara means in Brachos when the Gemara says that Kishem shepartzufeim einam daimais kach nishmoiseim einam daimais, right? Deyoseim einam shavos. So why we understand that the deos have to be different, but why does the partsuf have to be different? Why did Hashem make it that everybody has to look different? It's a good question. Okay, we all have a different das. We didn't even translate it yet, but why does everyone have to have a different partsuf? What do you say, Chaim?
If you didn't. You're in the world.
But how you look. Parts of how you look.
Well, weird if everyone looks the same.
Sure. I think it's pretty awkward when you're talking to Shimon and it turns out it's actually Ruben.
I think it's for relationships.
I would say it's a reflection of your sides. Everybody has a different external.
It's also for relationships.
If you look exactly like your wife, you mean?
No, if you look exactly like a friend or this friend, there needs to be something personal about the kesher between two people. If you look at a herd of zebras, they all look alike. You don't find that. They mingle there all day long. It doesn't look like
The zebras can tell pretty well who's
Joe the zebra all day long. They go wherever. They don't have that.
It's all true, but he says here in parentheses, means written afterwards, Kamashal nimsa partsufim shavim, upartsuf ponim roimez al tzelem alikim de nefesh. So fascinating. Like your partsuf, that's where the tzelem alikim is. Of the nefesh. So it means to say that Hashem himself has been mitzamtzim some kind of a koach into every person. That's called Salam Aleikim. Into people in general, we all look something alike. You know, we don't look like zebras. But there's something more, because the Salam Aleikim is such that there's an eternal amount of options as to how a person could look, and there's no tipat mayim in that sense, meaning everybody is completely different. But that's because, he says, everybody's at Salam Aleikim. And the nature of Salam Aleikim, the nefesh, is the different look between people. So it's not just so for the sake of your relationships, for the sake of myself, I have to know that I'm a different Salam Aleikim than you are. Not just what I see in other people, but I have to know you could have a mina that this could be for other people, because now I see everybody around me is different, and I shouldn't treat everybody the same. No, but I myself am a different type of Salam Aleikim than everybody around me. So since I'm a different type of Salam, I don't look exactly like you. That's my Salam Aleikim. So Mamela, I'm not like you, and if I'm not like you, I've got to do something different.
You don't see your own face. You don't see your own face.
Right.
As far as I could tell, maybe I look exactly like the one.
You don't want to learn.
He's talking about the pre-mirror state.
Well, it's kind of what you said.
In the water.
It's kind of what you said in the example of the Lashon Hara. You're curious about other people, like why did I do something? If you don't see another person or two people as different, one reminds you that you're different.
Right. Yeah.
You're judging yourself.
You know, something that I've been thinking about lately, really two things that are one, but I've been thinking a lot lately about how adversity is really our biggest teacher. It's just something that, came to me, recently in the last number of months. And the truth is that whether it's adversity b'fnim or in a relationship or society around me, without that, I'm not going to grow too much. I don't wish people adversity, but in fact, I don't know anybody who doesn't have some adverse situation, even within themselves, even if you're yourselves like, and the reason why that's so important is because I don't think we'll ever find anybody that is growing within their comfort zone. I don't think so. Whether it be an athlete or a Talmid Chacham, lahavdil, you're not going to grow within your comfort zone. In fact, when you see people can't go out of that comfort zone, it feels to me like a really very sad situation. Like at 24 years old, you're done. Like it just can't pop out of there. They can't reach out of there. They can't experience it there. And the reason that nobody wants to walk out of their comfort zone is because it's comfortable in your comfort zone, and there's no adversity on the outside. So like that it's kedai, I think, to learn how to embrace adversity and see it as a teacher and see it as a way to grow. And then, by the way, a miracle happens. Whether it's like I say, a relationship or an illness or whatever it might be. But then what happens is the adversity is not painful any longer because I've learned to embrace it. And I'm not saying that it's good to suffer. That's not my point. We should do everything we can to not suffer. I'm just saying that I don't know anybody who's putter like Lagamri. So I think that might be on a kind of a deeper understanding of what Reb Tzadok is teaching us here. That it's not just like examine my negative aspect and now figure out what my strength is that the negative aspect itself, that's what's going to get me to move on and become like some kind of like a bigger person than I am right now. And this doesn't end till the day you die, including the day you die. Otherwise, you're not an Oev Yomim. Like, if you can't let one day go by where you don't sort of like identify the adversity and walk a half a step, baby step, out of my comfort zone. That's what I think. That's Avodas Hashem. So, it's kedai to think like a different way. I'm saying it a little bit different than I did a few minutes ago, but I'm just saying what I think. That cheshbon hanefesh that we're talking about, that where a person will sit and say, "What did I do, wrong today?" Those are things that jar me, but jarring is good. Jarring is good, and it pulls me further. I want to be able to get to the next very, very important chiddush. Actually, the end of this os. Here's Kenoda Maimera Kadmoinim. The Arizal said, this is an arichus, which I'm not going to get into right now, maybe at a different time. But the Arizal says, Al Maimera Rabbi Seinuzal, the Gemara says in Shabbos Kuf Yud Ches, Avuch b'mai zoyer tvei. So the Amoraim of the Gemara would ask each other, tell me something, your father, they all came from, many of them came from Begedolim. So your father, what was he really zahir in more than anything else? They would always ask this about their father. And Rizal says that what they were after was to learn about the shurish neshama of the person that they were learning bechavrusa with, the Amoraim. And at the simplest level, without the Arizal, I understand. Like sometimes, like I'm trying to understand people, just me and Niyakotin, and all of a sudden, like they introduce me to their father, I say, I understand the whole picture so much better. First of all, I lose all my sinas chinam because, like, it always bothered me. You do this, I see your father did it, your grandfather did it. It's okay, like that's just a family minhag. But it's so interesting how you can see a tchuna. So the Amoraim would ask each other, Avuch, the Gemara says things like, like I wait, from one suda to another before I eat mochitz after fleishiks, but, my father would, he waited 24 hours until, like in this kind of zehirus. So the Arizal talks about the fact that they were all wanted to know, they had a curiosity about the other people in the Beis Medrash's shurish neshama, which shows you a deep caring for the people around you. But look how far this goes, and that's important. Well, because this type of thing we say in Gittin, Ein Adam Oimed al Divrei Torah Elohim Kain Nichshal. Sort of going back to the beginning, that you're not going to grow, in my words, unless you're nichshal. You're not going to grow unless you have something going on in your life which is not comfortable for you. So this is a synopsis of this so far, that by seeing where I tripped to seeing where I failed, I know I'm going to stop there and I'm going to learn about my strength. Now, next few lines, to me, is where the fun starts. Haloi tira. He says, take a look at this. Ochaz chosam hatayra. K'mayshamru b'chelik. So let me remind you a little bit of take advantage of the minute here and understand the background here. From the time Shlomo Melech died, until the Chorban, Beis Hamikdash Bayis Rishon was 410 years. During those 410 years, we were ruled by kings. Machlokes, of course, in the Eretz Yisrael, in Klal Yisrael, there was Malchus Yehuda and there was Malchus Yisrael. Two different sets of kings. Most presumably they all came from David HaMelech. That was when it was one. But, in Sefer Malachim, it goes into the detail of these kings, Malachim Aleph, Malachim Beis, goes into the detail of these kings. It's Kufa of 410 years, and tells us at the end of the whole story that this one did as Hatoiv Beinei Hashem, this one did Ara Beinei Hashem, this one did Kedavid Aviv, and this one did not do Kedavid Aviv. You have in this 410 years, within there, you have a very, very interesting sequence of kings. Fascinating, actually. You had Achaz HaMelech. I'll explain to him about it in a minute, but he was a Rasha. Achaz was a Rasha. He was a Melech Yehuda, and he was a Rasha. His son was Chizkiyahu, who was a Tzadok. His son was Menashe, who was a Rasha. And his son was Yoshiyahu, the grandson, but he's called Beno because the son didn't live. But his offspring, let's put it that way, was Yoshiyahu. So Yoshiyahu is even called in Mikra Yoshiyahu ben Menashe. So, what is going on here? In other words, what we're looking for a shidduch, we're not going to say, "Oh, yeah, it comes from Menashe Melech." Wow, David. How can it be that this is, of course, Reb Tzadok's point? How can you see such a transgenerational davar v'hifuchai? The story, at the same time, I'll just tell you, the story with Achaz, just want to, Achaz, this also says in Divrei Yamim and a little bit in Malachim and a little bit in Sefer Yeshayahu. Yeshayahu, by the way, through all these Malachim, from Achaz, Chizkiyahu, Menashe, Yoshiyahu, up until Yoshiyahu had Yirmiyahu, but up until Yoshiyahu, it was all Yeshayahu Hanavi. Yeshayahu Hanavi was the one who gave Musar to Menashe and to Achaz, and gave Chizuk and Musar also to Chizkiyahu. Yeshayahu Hanavi was, there were other Nevi'im at that time, like Micha, I think, was at that time. But Yeshayahu rather was like the Gadol Adar. He was like the Navi, and he was very, very effective, and he was very, very, very lived. Just interesting. He lived at a very difficult time for Klal Yisrael. I mean, in other words, the Bnei Yisrael were literally split in two, killing each other. This wasn't just like Neturei Kaplan. This was really wars and Ritzicha, civil wars that were going on. Each one siding, by the way, the Melech Yisrael and the Melech Yehuda, siding with different nations around us, like Aram and Mesech, Assyria, eventually with Bavel, would turn into Bavel. Each one siding for their own political benefits with a different great nation, and feeling that they were doing the right thing, and trying to turn Israel, that's our Israel, the same Israel we live in, trying to turn Eretz Yisrael to be to the likings of whatever non-Jewish nation would like, in this way get their money and get their support, and so it was important to get the support of Aram, Turkey, like around there. It was important to get their support. It was important to get the Assyrian support, and not only was there controversy as to whose support we should try to get, China or America, Lebanon, Syria, or Egypt. Not only was that the question, and all these same countries, some had slightly different names, where nothing changed. It's all the same periphery of Eretz Yisrael, same borders of Eretz Yisrael. All of these were enemies, wanted to take over Eretz Yisrael, which is fascinating. Fascinating. We all know it's fascinating how Israel was always in the center of all these world wars. So the historical reason for that is because Israel is the land bridge that was able to get from north to south. In Ruchnius, it's we're always made every Jew center stage. That's just the way it is. That's why there's an unusual amount of Jews in the news. But in any case, so Achaz decided to, he wanted to do against the Melech Yisrael. He was the Melech Yehuda, and he wanted to side with Damasek. And siding with Damasek, the Torah tells us, Tanakh tells us that he did a number of things. Number one is he pillaged the Beis HaMikdash. He took all the money. That's where there was some money because people would give their Tzadok and Matzah Shekel, and they had Kalim and stuff like that. He took it all and gave it. He took them broke, and he gave it all to Damasek. And then he himself, just in trying to get Damasek, and they said in Damasek, they said it's not, that's not really good enough. What we have to do is really it's kind of like create a real forward society, and let's build a big Beis Avodah Zarah in the place of the Beis HaMikdash. In Yerushalayim, in the place of Beis HaMikdash, good. You gave us all the money, but together we will build a huge. And Achaz went to visit Damasek. It says in the Torah, and he was like really taken with the Avodah Zarah campus that he saw. Like this is like really something. And I don't know how he did this without a cell phone, but he sent the plans over to the Kohen Gadol and the Uriah Kohen Gadol. And he told the Kohen Gadol, I want you to build exactly this in Yerushalayim. And he did, by the way. And he did. So, whatever you see in the news, that's at one time did exist in Yerushalayim, this base of Avodah Zarah. Where's Nasano when I need him? There's actually pieces of it that you could find. That's the base Achaz. Other thing that he did is he closed the entire Torah education system of Eretz Yisrael in order to satisfy the Assyrians. Achaz, that's what he's referring to. Achaz chasam hataris. It's all over. Chasam means it's all. It doesn't mean he made a siyum. He said it's all over with the schools. It's all over with the education. And the Gemara says that he reasoned. Imain Gediyim, Ein Izim, Imain Izim, and like he got a whole cheshbon over there, and he said, which is true, that if you want to get the Torah out of the people, you're going to have to start with the youth. And during this time, Yeshayahu gets a nevuah from Hashem, and he says, "Go take your son." Told Yeshayahu, take your son, whose name was Shar Yashuv. What was his name? Take your son Shar Yashuv and go visit the king Achaz. This was not necessarily a regular thing that the Nabi walks into the king. Think Esther and Achashverosh. It wasn't such a regular thing. So he says, go over to him and tell him that he's making a huge mistake. And he if you look at the words of Yeshayahu, let me just show you for a second. He says, "V'amarta elav, go meet Achaz in Yerushalayim. El ksei ta'alas habrecha el yoinel masilas sedei koves." There's a place in Yerushalayim on the way to the Beis HaMikdash called Talas HaBrecha. It was a pool. V'amarta elav, hishamer v'hashket al tira. Stop being so scared. Ulevavcha yerach. Stop being so weak-hearted. This is what Hashem told Yeshayahu to tell Achaz. Mishnei zanvois ha'udim ha'ashenim ha'ela. You're so worried about the politics of the Aramites, whatever they were called, Armenians, and the Assyrians. These are Hashem called them Shnei Zanvoi Sa'udim Ha'ashenim Ha'ela. This, he says, is Rashi explains, Ud Mutzamayesh. That's a thing you put in the fire. What's a fancy word? Fancy word. A what? No, a firebrand. A firebrand? Mutzamayesh. So this stick, it's made out of wood. That's all they had. They put this stick. Stoker. Come on. We always talk about Ud Mutzamayesh, but what Rashi explains that it has two tails, one on each side. The politics has two tails, one on each side, and they're both burnt out. Put this one in the fire, they put that one in the fire. You're going and you're being machanef at giving away Yerushalayim, giving away money to two nations, which will become, as he puts out, footnotes in history. B'chariaf ritzin va'aram ben Ramalyo, Yan ki yotz alecha aram ro, Ephraim ben Ramalyo, leimar nala b'Yehudim nekitzana. So they're saying, let's get rid of them. But he says, Hashem said, Ko amar Hashem elikim, Loi sakum v'loi siyeh, ki roish aram damesek v'roish damesek ritzin. You want to know where Aram belongs? They belong in Damesek. They don't belong here in Eretz Yisrael. Roish damesek ritzin. That's who was the guy. Uboid shishim v'chamesh shana yechas Ephraim me'am v'roish Ephraim. Where does Ephraim belong? Ephraim, by the way, Rashi says, refers to Klal Yisrael, the whole thing. Ephraim was at that time the Ikar of the Shvatim. Rosh Ephraim Shomron. Rosh Shomron ben Rimayahu imloi saminu ki loi se'amanu. Yosef Hashem daber Allah chazleimar. It goes on. So Yeshayahu was charged with making this fantastic nevuah to Achaz. And Achaz, now here's the thing that I want to point out. The Gemara asks, Achaz was like really a bad guy. He installed child worshipping mizbachos all over Eretz, child sacrificing mizbachos all over Eretz Yisrael. He gave away all the kudshim of the Beis HaMikdash and replaced it with avodah zarah. It was like he stopped a whole educational system. It was really like a bad guy. I mean, he's a Russia, but he's not on the list for the Gemara on those she'en lahem chelik lo'olam haba. I mean, we've heard of people that are a lot better than him that don't have a chelik in olam haba. Right? You could start a school these days and ain't no chelik olam haba. What's a little chelik? Why does he have a chelik in olam haba? So the Gemara says, "Mipnei boishes panim shahaya lo liyishayahu." Well, he had humility, boishes panim, before the Navi Yeshayahu. When Yeshayahu spoke, he put his head down. He didn't listen to him. But not only that, not only did he put his head down, but he reasoned like this. This is all in the Gemara. He reasoned like this, that if the Yeshayahu's koach here, he saw as a koach hatov, he thought that's not winning. I need to get the Shechina out of Eretz Yisrael. And the only way I'm going to get the Shechina out of Eretz Yisrael is by making Batei Avodah Zarah all over the place and sacrificing children and getting the design from Damascus into Jerusalem and etc. That's how I'm going to get the Shechina out of here. Once the Shechina is out of here, then we can join up with the Assyrians. And once I join up with the Assyrians, so then we'll be a country like all other countries and we'll be fine. So you know what the Gemara calls that? Oh, you see, he recognized the covenant of the Shechina. So Reb Tzadok says, Haloi Tira. So, and then it goes, not only that, you want to know why he was Zeicha to a son? Chizkiyahu is considered the Tzaddik Hadar, and they thought he was Mashiach, and there was nobody that built a better educational system in Eretz Yisrael, in the history of Eretz Yisrael, that from the Negev until the Golan, every kid was a Talmud Chacham and Nukachim and Tyrus. You know why he was Zeicha to Chizkiyahu? Because of his kavod for the Shechina. In other words, Chizkiyahu, I mean, just to put it in educational terms, Chizkiyahu saw, wow, the Shechina. My father, so strong, and what's he worried about? He wasn't worried about this melech, that melech. He was worried about the Shechina. And who did he have Boshes upon him for? Not the Ratzin and all these. And this, by the way, broke up the whole Israel. I mean, there was a huge civil war over this, of which side to take. But Chizkiyahu saw this as, or I don't know if he saw it, but somehow or another, it came to him in this intergenerational way, this idea that I can not only rebuild the schools that my father messed up, but Shechina, Boshes Panim. It's amazing. It comes Menashe after Chizkiyahu, Banim Marim, and he says, okay, I see the Shechina, let's get rid of it again. And Yoshiyahu says, no, let's rebuild it. So it's all Ruchnius going bad and therefore the Gemara, when the Gemara is asking this profound question of who has a chelik in Olam Haba and who doesn't have a chelik in Olam Haba, just doing bad things doesn't automatically make you lose your chelik in Olam Haba, because some of those bad things are showing a tremendous koach of tov, which is in the person, a tremendous amount of your shamayim. Now, this should not give anybody a license to go worship Avodah Zarah, do child sacrifice, anything like that. But it just shows you the deep, deep look of when you ask, how can it be? You know, they say that, like, Karl Marx was a grandson of the Pnei Yeshua. Yeshua was a tzaddik ador. I think you could find it on Google somehow, if you know how to look. It's not a stira. And the B'nai Banav Shel Haman, Oiskin B'Torah B'Bnei Brak. It's not a like one of the seven wonders of the world. It's Hianosenas. What it means is that the very same thing that was the very same trait that was motivating evil can motivate good. And you know, like Haman was adamant about destroying the Jewish people, and he was similarly, and nothing good to say about Haman, you know, nothing good to say about Haman, but somehow or another, B'nai Banav Shel Haman Oiskin B'Torah B'Bnei Brak. So there's something very, very deep that we have to learn. Tachlis, okay, stop here, I'm late, but Tachlis, I think, like, let's just sum it up in one sentence, we have to make a new kind of cheshbon hanefesh. And as much as this is not going to work in the school systems or society systems, it can work within ourselves, that like you can take a look in a mirror, modern day invention of a mirror, and figure out, when you're going through the movie of the day, you figure out, like, where am I weak? And that there is your best friend. Because that's how I know where tomorrow's work is. And that's how I know, ad kedei kach, says Reb Tzadok, what's machivasa be'elamai. So not by finding, so that it's the negative aptitude, which is demonstrating everything. Thank you for listening.
Why does college have to be like dragged around by these ridiculous
Rules?
No, but these leaders who are just like, it's like, I feel like today, right now, it's like, why are we being dragged around by going through a field? Don't go into a field. It's just like this.
But you see, it's always been. It's always been.
No, I'm saying, but what? The Kadosh Baruch Hu can't give us like leaders like consistent.
So
leaders
I
that are like good. So that we can do what we're supposed to do.
Everybody has that question, but I
need to run.
I have to run about 10 minutes. But what's clear is that, first of all, it always happened. and the Malcha Yisrael were always like running after the Haskamas of the nations, the superpowers around them. And this is exactly what Yeshayahu said. This is your opportunity to be strong and to have betachon. So who's the leader that's going to get up? Who's the Ben David that's going to get up and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to do...
He's going to tell him that that's the right thing to do rather than Yoshiharu saying no to Paro.
The Navi's going to tell him what the right thing to do.
You need
Yirmiyahu. Yeah. Right. That's the big change. Instead of being led, we're going to lead. That's the big change. Like we were talking last time, I was at a wedding last time.
What do you mean? Instead of being led, we're going to lead?
I was
like the Jewish people will.
What's it going to look like? I was just talking to somebody. What's it going to look like when Mashiach? So the answer is nobody knows.
Why do we need a king when Mashiach comes?
Oh, but as much as we don't know, ain't on the Yudea Ma'iyah, but a little bit we do know. And what we do know is that the Memshala will turn to Melucha, Malach HaMashiach. So the government will have to change to a monarchy government, whatever that means, which will be led by a Navi, meaning not a Navi will be sitting in the government, but they'll listen to the words of the Navi if it's a Navi MS. Mashiach himself will be a Navi in certain things, but also you have Eliyahu Navi, which we're told about.
Mashiach won't be the leader, though? The Navi leader may be different than Mashiach?
Mashiach is a king.
That can be two different...
Yeah, there's a Melech and a Navi. It doesn't mean that the Melech can't have Nevuah. It means there'll be the Navi.
Moshe was the king, he was also the Navi.
Right, but then that changed. David, you see, went to Nasa, not Navi. And the main difference I think we're going to see, which I could see that happening tomorrow, or I could even see it happening yesterday, but the main difference that we're going to see is that instead of always trying to satisfy the nations which are around us or controlling us, or the ones with the money, or the weapons. I mean, this is what you see throughout Tanakh. I'll say for Malachim. Instead of them sort of, we'll let you do this and we'll let you do that, and trying to appease them all the time, which Yeshayahu Navi says. What a beautiful Parak Zion of Yeshayahu Navi. He says, stop doing that. Just stop doing that. And he says explicitly, he says, at the end, all these people are going to become footnotes in history. He names them. Hashem names them. They're all going to become like a bunch of nobodies in history that really, if I wouldn't mention them here, nobody would have even heard about. Okay, you heard of like Koresh, or you heard of Nebuchadnezzar, but a lot of these people had never even heard of. Rotzen, you know.
Who's that?
I found him on Wikipedia.
Probably a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
Spiro Agnew, who?
Spiro Agnew. Who ran with the senator. But Nifter today. Senator Lieberman.
Yeah.
Part of our show. Yeah. But anyways, that's the difference. The difference you're going to see is exactly this Menahapachu, that we're going to lead instead of being led.